begin, I want to thank Kelly, Caroline, and Tess for all of their hard work into this amazing event. Not only did you volunteer your time during the summer to make this idea a reality, you connected one strangers who shared a common goal of honoring lives impacted by September 11th. They now have a real connection and possibly a new outlook and perspective. I also want to thank all the students who participated, especially Evan, who I was paired with for this project. You all put heart into these projects, and I'm grateful for your families and friends who supported you along the way. September 11th, 2001. What they say is true. It really was a beautiful fall day that almost felt like summer still. That morning, I was 10 years old and truly felt on top of the world. I was in my double digits era and was about to start middle school. What made this even more special was then I lived on the block of St. Anne's where my brothers and I attended. Getting ready that morning, I reflected on how our principal, Mr. Mazzella, gave us a speech the year before about how important 6th grade was. We were literally turning a corner as the building turned left on the next block, and figuratively turning a corner as we prepare for high school. My type A personality was ready for this next challenge. I walked into school that morning eager and confident. I will never forget the moment I found out about the terrorist attacks, where I was sitting exactly in the classroom when Mr. Mazzella got on the intercom. In fact, these feelings are so strong that when I visit St. Anne's to give speeches and enter that classroom, it is always the first thing I think about. In my 10-year-old mind, the thought of my dad being there never crossed my mind. I had no idea about the layout of the city. I just knew that my dad had an important job since he worked at 1PP, the NYPD headquarters. And even then, I had no idea that my uncle, who's also my godfather, would be there as he is a firefighter. Due to my own PTSD, that day and the year is blocked out for me. Anything from that day has been told to me. Like how families came back to my house because we lived so close to the school, and we were picked up because we were all the first responder kids. I will never forget the kindness that Mr. Mazzella showed my family during this difficult time, and feel blessed to work with his son and daughter-in-law. If you live in Staten Island, you know how small the world it is, and it is a beautiful reminder of the kindness that was shown in a dark time. I continued to excel in school, but my home life was chaotic. I'm one to internalize, and it turned into a hyper-focus into eating habits and my school life. My mood and behavior was all over the place at home because I had no control of my surroundings, but I found things that I could control, especially eating, more so what not to eat. My teachers at school definitely saw an anxious and quiet girl, but who would have known what was actually going on? I had great grades, was highly involved in activities, and was a cheerleader through college. However, socially, I struggled because I preferred to be by myself and could not relate to the girls that I went to school with. Going away to college felt like the perfect opportunity to escape my reality and start anew. Manhattan College was my fresh start, and during those 4 years, I felt like I had that college experience everyone talked about. That, of course, did not come easy, and I definitely learned a lot of lessons along the way. One of the biggest lessons I learned was when I failed my math class during my spring semester freshman year. I really felt like the biggest loser that day. This has never happened to me before. I did what I had to do though. I got a summer job and paid to make up for the credit of the classes. During that summer, I reflected on what I was doing at school and realized that business management was not the major I wanted to be in anymore. I switched into their communication program, which was new to the college at that time. This was it. This was where I belonged. I fell in love with my program, my classes, soaked up all the knowledge from my professors. During an intro class, I was introduced to the nonprofit world and felt like this was my path. Also during this time, I was really able to increase my skill for writing, which was also a passion of mine. I made a promise to 20-year-old Susan that day that I would write a book. On what, who knew, but I made that promise. Post-college, I started my career in nonprofits that focus on the healthcare. However, I had that feeling to still be doing more. My personal life always impacted my career, and living and working in Staten Island, getting involved with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation seemed like that next step. I reached out to them, shared my story, my work experience, and that I wanted to volunteer. Enough of us had reached out, and in 2018, we formed the Young Professionals Network. 11 of us became the founding members, and we're all either children of 9/11 first responders, or just wanted to get more involved with the organization. I am proud to be a founding member and now sit on their executive board of the Young Professionals Network and oversee the First Responder and Military Committee. Flash forward to 2020, what was supposed to be another milestone year for me. I was turning 30 that year and was moving. The world was also having a big year, and not in a good way. With the pandemic, my mental health took a turn for the worse. The isolation from my communities and my dad, since he's the immune compromised category, brought me right back to those fears at 10 years old and 9/11. At this time, first responders and their families were getting a lot of heat, and I experienced that frequently online from people I haven't talked to in years who felt so comfortable behind a keyboard. I was truly dumbfounded. My dad and uncle did not see color, race, or gender on September 11th. They saw humans struggling, and no one was trained for what they did to save lives that day, let alone trained to live with the horrors they saw. How can you lump me in this category? I let this win for a while, but then I realized I needed to stop. I'm an adult this time and can work through this. I started therapy specifically for families of first responders and found a group called Reps for Responders. Our membership in the YPN also increased due to meetings now being able to held virtually. Here again, though, was that pull for me to do more. I prayed on it and remembered that promise I made to myself in college, and I would become a published author. Now was my time to share that story. The most important factor of publishing this book was that 100% of the proceeds were directed to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. To accomplish this, I set up a GoFundMe with my story and was scared to submit, but I clicked it anyway. I had an overwhelming outpour of support with donations and encouragement. The donations from this campaign covered the cost of the printing and actual publishing of the book. Now that I had the funds, my next move was to find other contributors to support this project because I wanted to find that community, the other children of 9/11 first responders. I became my own publicist, pitched my story to numerous media outlets, and thanks to SI Live, Pix11, and New York One, my own social media accounts, I had 100 people % interested. I spoke to each individual individually, learned more about their story and my expectations for the book. After conversations, about half were on board. I had to remind myself that not everyone is in the same place as me, and maybe they felt ready to share their story, but once they put their pen to paper, it was not feasible. I understood and appreciated their honesty. With the help of my brother Peter, he built me a website where I was able to take and process orders. I had custom bookmarks printed, which my dad's real estate company sponsored, and hand wrote a note in each handbook. I packaged the books myself, shipped them myself. I am forever grateful for the outlets that yet again shared my story and project and helped drive the sales of this book. I even sold so many that I fundraised for a second printing. With everyone's support, I was able to donate almost $4,000 to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This was a proud moment for me and confirmation that I was able to use a talent from God to write, to do some good in the face of evil. I was capable and not going to let a tragedy define me. So where am I now? I'm starting my 8th year working at Staten Island Academy, a career that I love and has allowed me chances to be myself and share my story within a supportive community. I am also still heavily involved with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation and continue to support the mission of While We Can, Let Us Do Good. Additionally, I'm actively utilizing my platform to share my story and make sure that we remember the sacrifices of our brave men and women made on 9/11. The history is going to end with us if we do not continue to share these stories in concrete ways, which is why I wanted to make sure the stories were written. It is the second-hand account of the proof and emotions, lives, and experiences. These words, these lives will never be forgotten. I am finally living a life of stability, one that 10-year-old me would be so proud of. Now that I know that life will throw me curveballs, but I have a supportive family, close friends, boyfriend, career, and most importantly, my faith. Together, this community will help me get through any tough roads ahead. To everyone in the audience today, but especially the high school students, chase after your hopes and dreams, no matter how massive they seem. It was by chance that in 2020, we were all forced to be home, and to be honest, if we haven't, I don't think I would have really sat down and put this goal to heart. My biggest regret would have been not using my time better and creating the community that I built during this time that continues to be a give and take relationship of support. September 11th may have happened 24 years ago, but it is a day that is going to affect the world, especially the children of first responders, forever. We need an outlet to deal with it, and I am proud to have built something impactful and meaningful. This day made me who I am, and I refuse to accept anything except moving forward and living with grace when needed. To the educators, you have an opportunity to make such a lifelong impact on your students. Do not take that lightly. I have been out of school for years, but I still remember those teachers that shined a bright light on me during my years in school. Decades have passed since my time as a student, but I still feel that warmth from my teachers that saw something in me beyond what I could see at this time in my life. In closing, I of course want to honor my dad and uncle for what they did on September 11th, and all those who made sacrifices that day and the ultimate sacrifice, either that day or dealing with an illness years later. However, I would be remiss if I did not mention the wives, spouses, and significant others of these first responders. Maybe it is because of my age, but I often reflect on what my mom and aunt were going through that day and life after. Right now, I'm around the same age as my mom was that day, and she had 3 children at this point. Me at 10 years old, my brother Peter, who was 7 years old, and my youngest brother Johnny, who was 1.5. Not only was there fear and anxiety around her then husband getting home that day, but also her brother. She raised 3 children that, despite what happened, are living good lives. I'm so proud of my brothers for all they accomplished and the men they turned out to be. Then I think about my Aunt Wendy, who is younger than me now on 9/11. She was recently married and about to start her life as a young wife. She too is now a mom of 2 amazing young men that I am proud to call my cousins. Thank you all for this opportunity to speak with you today. I hope you take away the strength and resilience these first responders showed that day, the pillar that their families had to be, and the students who want to have an understanding of this day and its impact. Please help us continue to do good despite this tragedy. Thank you.